Hey guys, welcome to Intellipath. Considering the huge demand of automation testing skills in IT industry, we have come up with this in-depth Selenium tutorial for you guys. So let me start off by walking you through the agenda for today's video. So first, we'll understand Selenium Integrated Development Environment. After that, we'll understand the basic architecture of Selenium WebDrivers. And then we'll look into downloading and installing Selenium WebDrivers. After that, we'll understand Firebug and Firepath installation. Moving on, we'll also discuss WebDriver methods and HTML tags. And then finally, we'll understand handling web alerts and XPath access. So guys, without any further delays, let's get started.
IDE stands for an integrated development environment, an environment where you can do some recording of your test case and run those test cases. And one point to be noted that this Selenium IDE it's a plugin which can be added to only two browsers, that is a Firefox and Chrome. Earlier it was only available with Firefox. Now it has been updated to and supporting even Chrome browser as well. So by adding this plugin, this IDE to the browser, you can automate any application by providing by providing the URL of that application under test. So you see here this is the Selenium IDE, the environment which IDE looks like. Here you see a base URL where you need to provide the URL of an application under test. And here in the center you see a commands, target and the value. This is a recorded script of that particular application functionality. So we'll be learning in detail in the coming sessions how to work with Selenium IDE, how to make test cases and all about that. Now coming here, you have some features in this IDE. You can do assertions in the sense validating your application, validating the title, it can be the image or the text. Means validation in the sense where you are comparing the expected result and the actual result of the application. So these features of this Selenium IDE it is used only for record and running the script. Okay, so it tracks this IDE tracks each and every action done on that particular browser, that is Firefox or Chrome browser. Any operation done on this browser will be tracked automatically by this, identified by this Selenium IDE. The another point you can note is the recorded script by the IDE can be viewed in other languages. Means the recorded script can be transformed into Java, .NET, Python, Ruby. Okay, and then use it further for automation. But that we don't recommend to you to do, because editing the recorded script will be a more homework as compared to writing the script directly. So that's the reason we usually don't take the recorded script as our automation script. We mostly try to write the script directly. Okay, so this is all about the Selenium IDE. So remote control is nothing but we need to start the server to communicate with the application. Means explicitly we need to start the server. Then this server starts the Selenium jar files where the return script sent to the Selenium RC server will interact with the actual application. So here the code will not have any direct interaction with the application. So here we need an intermediate RC server, that is a remote control server, for communicating with the actual application. So this is one of the limitation with the Selenium RC. So that is being overcome with the Selenium WebDriver. So this is all about Selenium RC. And also Selenium RC has its own set of methods, and which are quite different from the Selenium WebDriver methods. And Selenium WebDriver has some more advanced add-on methods which have been implemented in the WebDriver. So here grid is completely based on the hub and a node architecture. It's like a client and the server based. So hub is nothing but acting like a master or a server, and nodes is nothing but a follower or a slave, or you can say a client. A hub will give an instruction to all the nodes connected to it. So there would be a single hub, and multiple node machines can be connected to a hub. So in this grid architecture, you'll find one like a hub machine and multiple node machines who will be following the instructions given by the hub. They will be connected to the hub. So the script which you're executing will be communicated through hub to a node. So why this grid environment is required? Because in case if your application has to be tested in different environments on a different operating systems and different combination with the browsers, you can create this grid environment. And second scenario, if your application is taking long time to execute, then you can distribute the execution load on different machines, that means on different nodes, so that you can complete the execution faster as compared to executing them serially. So you can say, in other words, parallel execution is possible with the help of grid environment. So this is all about the grid. So the overall architecture would be in this manner. So here you find the bindings. Here these are the different technology language are available, which can be configured with Selenium WebDriver. In the center, this is the API, the Selenium API, which in turn interprets the code and forwards to the respective browsers. So you can configure each and every browser to the Selenium WebDriver API. So in detail level, you can see under the language bindings, it supports the Java language, C#, .NET, right, PHP, Ruby, Python. So the scripts written in these different programming languages will be forwarded through this Selenium WebDriver API and would be executed and operated on the respective browser. Those are the drivers. You need to get the respective drivers. So the WebDriver APIs collect the code written in a different technology and interpret it and send the request to the browser, where the actual execution happens on the configured browser. So in this manner, the communication from the language, the script written in different languages, would execute on a browser. So this is the overall architecture of Selenium WebDriver. Here one thing, we don't need to start any server like Selenium WebDriver RC, remote control. So the communication happens from the operating level itself. But even though it has different advantages, but few limitations are also available. Like you can see, it doesn't support a newly launched browser. Yes, you need to get the respective exe files, then only slowly it starts supporting the new browsers. For example, the Gecko driver, the exe file of Gecko driver will not support the older versions of Firefox. It needs new versions. Okay. So here it doesn't upload a file, they're saying, but you have a solution for it. You can also upload a file by using the Sikuli that we'll be discussing ahead. This Selenium WebDriver, as we know, it is mainly designed to automate a web application. So it won't support inbuilt or by default Windows applications. But you can also add the respective third-party plugins and automate the Windows applications as well. As Selenium WebDriver is an open source, it doesn't have any technical support kind, but no worries on that. You have different forums where the different technology people would help you in fixing the errors. So, and next point here is it don't have generating the built-in reports, but you can add TestNG to it and they get the reports generated time to time. So these are some of the points which need to be considered of the Selenium WebDriver. How to download the WebDriver and configuring the Java and Eclipse with the WebDriver jar files. So let's start with the first point. What are the prerequisites to download or configure the WebDriver? So first, initially we need to consider that Eclipse is already installed, and before Eclipse, Java is already on our machine. So first, initially, and this is a slide just to say a Java project, how to create in an Eclipse and how to write the classes and invoke them, packages. So anyways, we will be setting this environment ahead. Now after setting up Java environment path, means after downloading the JDK, you need to set the Java in the environment variable, and after that install the Eclipse and work over it. So this you will find the steps in detail in our previous sessions. Please, you can refer them. Now here, these are the different JDK downloading, how you can do, okay, from the site. Now you know Java you can get from the www.oracle.corporation, because Java is now undertaken by this Oracle Corporation. So from the oracle.com you can find the software for required Java software. Okay, and coming here, this is how you can search and write to verify the Java is whether installed on your machine or not, Java or either Java C. And this is the site from where you can download the Eclipse, and after configuring the Eclipse, now we need to download the jar files of our WebDriver. So to download the jar files of WebDriver, you need to first get the path or find the required jar files in a site for Selenium, that is www.seleniumhq.org. okay, so that we'll be seeing now. So let's go to a browser, open a browser. On this browser, open a new tab and go to the site of www.seleniumhq.org. So this is a Selenium site where you can find the already required downloads. Then search for, here you have a downloads tab, just click over it. And as we need a WebDriver drivers, there are different sections here: standalone server, Internet Explorer server, okay, and third you see the Selenium client and WebDriver language bindings. So from here you can get your jar files. As we all are aware of, as Selenium can be configured with different languages, technologies like Java, C#, Python, Ruby. So as in this session we are going to discuss with Selenium with Java combination. So you need to download the jar files of Java. Okay, Selenium WebDriver jars for Java. So right now the available version here is 3. Selenium, which is a version of 3.141.56. Download it. Once you click, it will start downloading. So the download file would be a zip file which you need to later extract it. So I've just clicked on the download. So it is downloading. You can save it to any location. Okay, I would just pass it to the downloads folder. In the downloads folder, I'm just creating one more. Okay, here I would say under downloads, I'm saving this as a Selenium Java, and this is the .1.4.59 zip. Already I have a file of Selenium 1.4.0. You can ignore this. I'm just extracting it now. So the download will start. As soon as it downloading is completed, we need to extract the files. Just check here. Show in the folder. It will take you to the folder where it has downloaded it. So this is the zip file which we have currently today we have downloaded. It's a zip folder. You need to extract it. So I recommend you to extract all the required jar files for your Selenium on whichever topic we are discussing into different folders, and all the folders in one location. So what I would do here is I would create a folder, new folder here, and I would extract to this new folder the Selenium jars. Okay, this is our jar file. So for extraction, select the downloaded file, which is a zip file, right click over it, say extract files. Don't extract here, otherwise it will extract in the same location. Extract files and browse to the location to this Selenium jars folder. So as it is in the downloads, it is in the downloads. Selenium jars is our required folder. I say OK and click OK to extract to it. So extraction done. Open this folder. You see these are your extracted files. You see some of the executable files here. Selenium client combined and client combined resources.java. Apart from these two jars, you find some more jars inside these libs. These are the jar files. So whenever we say configure the WebDriver jars, you have to add all these jar files to our workable project. So what I do, let's keep this all together in one place. I copy them, I copy this and save it into this one place. Now all the jar files are at one location so that I don't miss. If any jar file is missing, your project is incomplete. It may show errors, incomplete, and may pop up errors during execution. So this is how you download and extract the Selenium WebDriver jar files. Now how to add this to your project? So we have already configured or installed Eclipse. We are opening the Eclipse. Once you open Eclipse, this is what the three windows you'll find. On the right side, this is your package explorer. Right now you find here many projects are there. You can ignore them. It will be blank if you have just started working on the Eclipse, new Eclipse. So these are the different projects which we have created. The central area is the code where you can write the code, and down in the console you'll get the output of your executed code. So what we do is now here we'll create a new project. So going to you have here on the top of Eclipse, the different menus are there: file, edit, navigate, and so on. Go to the file, new, select Java project and give the project name on which you're going to work. So as I'm just giving, you should give a meaningful name according to your project name. If I'm working on a you can say a tours application, I give as my project name as tours. And you see here it is already selecting my Java version 8. Okay, I no need to do anything, just finish. Once it is completed, you see in this list of project, a tours project is created. You can expand it. This is the structure of your project, source, and by default under JRE system library, you will find the jar files of your Java, which comes default. Okay. Now also if you are going to work with WebDriver concepts, I need to add my WebDriver jars also here. How to add? So to add the WebDriver jar files, select the project, right click on the project, go to the properties, just a minute. So I'm just going to the properties of my project. Once you click on properties, you will find this properties window where you have the third option, Java build path. Select it, and you find here different tabs are the source, project, libraries, order, export. Select the libraries tab. Be on the libraries tab, and you see in the central area the JREs are there, Java jar files are there. Now we need to add WebDriver jars to this. Whatever jars you add here, they are configured to your project, that's tours project, whichever project you are working on. See, if you're creating new project, you have to do these steps once again for every project. Okay. Now as our jar files are present on local on my machine, I have to select add external jars. If they are in your Eclipse, you can say add jars. Getting? If in your project, if they are there, you can say add jars. If they are in your Eclipse, you can say add libraries. We'll see these options later. So here we will select an option of add external jars and browse to the location where I have already extracted. In the downloads, Selenium jars was our folder. Inside this libs, these are the jar files we need to add. Select all of them, Control A, open. Now they have come here. Yes, apply and OK. Now you see your project, a new folder is created, reference libraries. These are the jar files of your WebDriver. So any jars, if you want to add to your project, this is the same process. This is the one process. Okay. Now how to create a project and a packages. Project we have already created. Packages. As we know, a project can have many packages. How to packages will be in the source folder. Right click on the source, new package. Suppose this package is talking about the home page. I say home page is my package name. Inside this package, you create your classes, Java classes, by just right clicking on the package, new, and the class, and wherein you have to give the details about your class. Suppose my class is relating to the login. Whether you want a main method or without main method, that you can select. This is your .java class, and this is the structure of the class script. Default code is generated. Right? If you want to execute this code, you have to just login.java class, select it, right click, run as, and say Java application. It would save the code and run, you see, and you'll get the output on the console. Right now no output because I haven't implemented any logic, nothing we have written here. So this is the step how to create a project, packages, class, and run them. For running whatever the jar files are needed, how to add to the project. How to download and configure the third-party browser drivers to our Selenium WebDriver. So for this, you can see, understand. So as you need to automate our script on a particular browser, you need to know, you need to download the exe files for those browsers. So these are your different drivers, browser drivers available. Chrome driver for Chrome browser, Gecko for Firefox, Opera, and IE driver server. So these exe files need to be initially downloaded and then used as in our script for launching a particular application on that browser. So to do that, initially we need to go to our Selenium site, seleniumhq.org. In the downloads tab, here you find, when you just scroll down, you find a section known as a third-party drivers, bindings and plugins. From here as well you can download the drivers. Here you have a Google Chrome driver. Just download it. Go for, this is the current version which is available, 2.45. Click, go to it. These are the zip files. You have a Chrome driver for Windows 32, Mac as well as Linux. There is no 64-bit Chrome driver, so you can use this 32-bit Windows itself. Just download it. So I'm just downloading as we did earlier to the desktop. It's again a zip file. You need to extract the exe file from this. So once done, you will extract it. The same way you can get more drivers, like I want a Gecko driver which is compatible for launching a Firefox. I can just write here, download Gecko driver for WebDriver or Selenium. Here you have a Mozilla Gecko driver from GitHub. Just go to this URL and here you find the different versions of Gecko driver. Here Gecko driver 0.240, which is for Linux, Linux 64, Mac, Windows 32, Windows 64. Now based on the operating system available of Firefox on your machine, you can download this Gecko drivers. It's again zip file, just click over it, it would download. Okay, the same manner you can go for IE browsers as well. I'm just going to the Selenium site back. Right, we are in the downloads. You just scroll down, there you have a third-party language bindings. Here you have the Microsoft Edge. So from here you can download the IE browser as well. So in this manner you can get your required browsers. Okay, not sorry, from there it is an Edge, right? So here you have Internet Explorer driver server. The IE is available for 32 Windows IE, 32-bit as well as 64-bit. Now you can download from here. Once click on it, it will just download IE driver server 32-bit zip file. Okay, so in this manner you can just download the required drivers for your automation. Okay, so once downloading is done, as we did earlier, the extraction, this is the Chrome which we have just now downloaded. I'm going to extract files to another folder, right? As we earlier created a folder on the desktop. Here inside WebDriver Selenium downloads, I'll create one more folder named drivers, where all the required drivers will be saved into this. Okay. It's getting extracted. So back here, this is your drivers folder. This is your Chrome driver.exe. The same way you can get IE exe file, 5 Gecko driver exe file, all the required drivers. Okay, so I have these drivers already extracted in a folder on my downloads. Here I've created one folder drivers. These are the drivers: IE driver, Gecko driver, and Chrome driver. So this exe file location I need to select when I'm launching the browser. This is my C drive, this is the location. So we created a project demo. This is the source where we are creating a package inside this. Let's the package name be, it's a starting of WebDriver, right? I say WebDriver basic. So inside that we are going to create a normal Java class with a main method. So our class name, let's be launch with public static void main. So here we are understanding how to launch with the help of a script a particular browser. So inside main method we need to write the statement how to create a Selenium class, an executable class where we would be launching an application. So as we have already downloaded the Selenium jar files and the required third-party driver exe files, now we need to write a small script where how the script would interact with the browser. So for launching of the browser, we need to create an object for WebDriver. So here you see it's a WebDriver is a class and driver is an object, and you're going to create an object of using a constructor or a class that's a Firefox driver. Means this object driver, the object will be referring to the Firefox browser, and this driver is of type WebDriver. Now once after creating an object, you need to launch an URL. So to launch an URL, you need to use a method, get method, which is of class, which is from class WebDriver. Okay, so this is how you need to create an object and use the method get. But before creating an object, you need to set the exe file. You need to set the system pointing to the location of the downloaded exe file of a browser. So you can do that by using system.set property. The key and a value has to be provided. So the key represents which browser you are going to launch, and the path, the location of the required browser exe file. And here system is a built-in class. Set property is a method which is helpful for setting the path and of the required browser. Earlier in Selenium WebDriver, maybe 2.2.x versions don't need this system.set property, but the recent Selenium drivers versions from 3.x onwards, we need the statement of system.set property. Okay, so for example, you see here the system.set property, the Chrome driver and the location D drive and the Chrome driver.exe. Once the system set property is done, then we create an object and launch the application. The same manner, you can set the path for Gecko driver, that's a Firefox launching, and create an object for the Firefox driver. Similarly for launching the IE driver as well, you need to just change the key, the path and the object reference. Here you have the class that is Internet Explorer driver. So this way you can launch any type of browser by creating an object of that type. Apart from that, you have two more methods, close and quit. Close will close the parent window and quit will close both the child and the parent window. This we'll see with examples how to work on it. So this is all about this session, creating a small script. So let's move to the practical, how to work and launch the required browser. So going to the Eclipse, as earlier we created a package WebDriver, in that a small launch.java class, and here we need to write the first statement, system.setProperty. So as Java is case sensitive, S should be capital, system class system dot set property. We're having two parameters, key and a string value. The key is nothing but, as we are going to launch Chrome, within double quotes, WebDriver dot Chrome dot driver. This is the key, and the value you need to get the path of the Chrome. As we have already picked the path, this is where the Chrome driver exe is available. I'm copying this path and taking the file name. The file name is chromedriver.exe. chromedriver.exe. You can also get it with the properties. Here it's an you have to give the extension as well, .exe. Double quotations close, and every line has to be ended with a semicolon at the end. Now Java understands double, make it into double slashes, the path. This is the path, right? Now once after setting the path is done, next is creating an object for that WebDriver class. So as we know, the class is WebDriver. Its W and D are capital. You can take any object name, but as by maintaining the standards, we take driver as the object. New Chrome driver. Semicolon. You need to get the required imports. Now these imports, when you just make a mouse over on that line, red line, you get the import. Import WebDriver from Aura OpenQA.Selenium. So why are you getting this import? As we have added already the jar files to the project, so we are getting this import. Otherwise you won't get the import. Double click. So the import is happening over here. Similarly, import Chrome driver from OpenSelenium.Chrome. Now here our driver object is ready, which is referring to the Chrome driver, and this driver object is of type WebDriver class. Now we can do the actions, like after launching the browser, you need to open an URL. So object name dot, you have these all are the methods, some of the methods belonging to type WebDriver. For example, find element, close. See at the end what you see, in the faint, that's a class name. This method is belonging to that class. The method name, any input, the return type of the method, that's a web element. Similarly, get is a method, input string, void output, and this get can be used with object of type WebDriver. Current URLs, get page source code, title, these all are the methods can be used with WebDriver object. As right now we want to open the URL, so we'll use a get method, and here you need to provide the string. As I want to launch this URL, take this URL and www.seleniumhq.org download. This is your 3-step always needed in every program just to launch the browser with a particular URL. Just run this code, right click, run as Java application. So that would try to launch your application. with certain using some certain port number. Save and launch. Started executing. Here you see this is your Chrome driver version, and using one port number, any port number it can be which is available, and started executing. So it should launch the browser, and yeah, here the browser is launched. And the URL. So this is how your script is interacting with the exe file of Chrome through this Selenium WebDriver API. Well, now the same way, if you want to launch an application on the Gecko driver, that's a Firefox. So what I do, I take the same set of code. I'm just commenting this line and writing it below. Only few things I need to change here. The key, it should be Gecko, and the exe file as well, as our exe file name is gecko driver.exe. And also the object type, it should be Firefox driver. It should be capital. And import it. That's it. Just run the code. Now it is launching a Gecko driver. Here the Gecko is launched. Executing. Yeah, here it is launching seleniumhq.download. So this is how you launch the any particular browser and the URL. So let's understand what is this web elements. Okay, so web element is very simple. You might have been heard about objects, components. So in different applications, the naming convention is different. As we are automating the web applications in Selenium, we call them as web elements. So what are these web elements? Anything which is available on the applications to be tested under test. You see here a search box, okay, a search text box is a web element, a text is a web element, image is a web element, links are web element. So anything whatever is present on the applications under test are generally known as web elements. Okay, so you find here web elements. So what are the available web elements are there and how to inspect them? What is this inspection process is? So how are these web elements appearing on the applications? Because of the developers coding. The developers, when they are coding, they use certain features, some attributes and its values. Because of the attributes and values, a HTML code, they come up with some HTML code, and the output of that HTML code is nothing but your web elements on the application. So as a tester, if you want to find or point to one particular text box or a button or any web element, we need to initially understand the HTML code for that web element. And by knowing the attributes, unique attributes, we need to point to that web element. So today in this session, we are going to understand how to find the HTML code for the web element and find the unique attributes which will help us to test ahead. So in HTML code, you'll find the different tags are available with the tag name and the content. Content is nothing but the attributes of that element, web element. So, but first initially let's understand what are the different types of web elements you'll find on the applications. You may find edit boxes, okay, where you can enter some data and search the component or the products. You may find some links where after clicking on the link, it will land upon another page like a login, sign up, log out, find some products. Okay, so in this way you'll find different links where they're having a tag that's an A tag. This is the HTML code, how it looks like. A tag, that's an anchor tag with many components or attributes within it, right? You may find buttons where you try to make some actions of a click action or submit action. After filling the registration form, you try to click the details, you try to click on the page, wherein it would collect all this information and forward it to your database or some other page. Okay, so you might find some images which represents the application. Okay, how to inspect them. Image links also will be there, means an image which is acting like a link which once you click over it, which will navigate to the further pages. Also buttons, some buttons can be in the form of an image. Text areas where you can enter some text, multiple characters. Check boxes where you can enable and disable the options. Radio buttons where you need to select some values for registration, either female, male, you can select either. Similarly, list box where you have many options where you select under that drop down one particular value according to the business logic. The combo boxes are something drop downs, like once you click on this downward arrow, you'll get many options, okay, wherein you can select one, like countries to be selected, where you can click on the box and get the countries selected, or dates, months, so on. Okay, so these are the different web elements present on any web application which you are going to automate. So now here we are going to see how to find the web elements and its HTML code. So for practice purpose, you can take any application, okay, and open a browser and take any application. So for here, we are taking a very simple one, the Facebook, which everyone are familiar with it, facebook.com. So where on this application you find all the components which we discussed now. Sorry. So here once after launching the application, you find different components here. You find an image, you find the text boxes, the links are there, buttons are there, drop elements are there, combo boxes wherein you can click and get different dates, months, radio buttons are available, right? So this is an image with a sign up. So each and every component is available here. Now let's inspect one by one. So if I want to find this text box, you need to find the HTML code for it. So to find the HTML code, I'm going to select, right click on that component, right click on the component and say inspect. Once you click on the inspect option, it will display you the HTML code only for that text box. So here you'll get the HTML code. And this is the selected text is nothing but your HTML code for the text box. So which is having a tag name input and different attributes. Type is one attribute with a value email, class is one attribute with input text, name is another attribute, ID is another, data, so on. So out of these different attributes, you need to find a fixed, or you can say a unique element which doesn't match with other text boxes on this application, where the values are different. So you may be having ID. ID may also be available with password text box, but value will be different. Okay, so I'm just saying, as per our testing priority, I would go for the ID attribute if it is available. Okay, now here I'll take ID is equal to email to find this text box. Similarly, I want to know how to inspect and how to write a code. That we'll be studying in our coming sessions. But here we are just understanding how to find the HTML code for a web element. Similarly, for a password, inspect it. You see here, it's having a type, password, class is there, name is there, ID is there. ID is different, pass. So I can rely on this. Same way, you can find the button. Button is having an input tag. Okay, ID is also the U08. Okay, having given name attribute, name is not there. Value is there, ADL label. Okay, type is there, submit. These are the attributes what we call. Now coming to the link. Forgot account is a link. It's represented with an anchor tag. href, where is it referring to? Once you click on the link, what is the text on the page, on the application? What is the link? Forgotten account is the link text. We call this as a link text. So you see, forgotten account question mark. This is the link text. So you can find the element with the help of some attribute of a tag or with link text also. Getting? Now here image. Right click on the image and inspect. You see img is a tag name having class, source, okay, height and width. These are the attributes used for creating this page or this image, right? Similarly, you have here this drop down. Inspect this drop down initially. It's having a tag select. Why select? Because it's a select is actually a class wherein you can select many elements under it. If I'm expanding this select, see, I have many options under that. Days, okay, 1 2 3 4, all the values are there which are actually present in this drop down. Day 1 to 31 days. So it's a select tag with some label, name, ID, title. Getting? Radio button, it's an input tag, type is a radio, name attribute, value, ID. So this is the process how to inspect and get understanding the HTML code of any web element. Just right clicking on the web element and selecting the option of inspect and getting the HTML code, studying it. So what are these locators? These are nothing but the properties used for designing the web elements by the developers. So these are your locators: name, locator, ID, class name. Since using these locators, we can find an element in our Selenium WebDriver. So always the preference is given, first preference is given to the ID. If ID is not available, then to the name. If ID and name is not helping us to find an element, then you can use class name or either tag name. If you have a links, you go with a link text and partial link text or either. Also, you can find an element based on CSS. If neither of these approaches working out, that is ID, name, class or tag name, you can also design your XPath. Okay, so we'll see one by one these locators. For example, the first one, that's an ID. If ID is available for your web element, how to find it? The syntax is by.id, and within double quotes you need to provide the value of the ID. So here what is by? By is nothing but a class which having all the locators, and this is the value for that locator. This value for the locator you'll get by inspecting the element, which we have already discussed in our last session. Now whatever the attribute we have found, how to find an element with those attributes? That will be again driver, that is nothing but our instance pointing to a browser and the URL. Driver dot find element method by dot whatever the locator ID and the value, and there you can forward the data to it. Okay, now the same way let's just check see one example based on the ID. So going to the Eclipse, we are going to create a class. For example, this class will make this as ID with main method so that we can run the program. So as we have already discussed in a previous session, that we need to set the system set property and then create an instance for the driver and launch the URL. Just taking those 3 lines of code and import the WebDriver. Now here we are going to launch this Facebook URL. Take the Facebook and provide it to the get method input string. Now once you execute this program, it would just launch the Chrome with Facebook URL. Now next we are going to see how to use a locator ID. Maybe like I want to enter some data to this email text box. So first I would inspect what are the properties of email. Manually I have inspected, it's having a tag name input. The locators are here, the properties are type, class, right? Name is also there, ID is also there. As we discussed, if ID is available with proper value, I would prefer taking the ID. And the value is email. So copy the value of email here. Go to the Eclipse. Here our driver instance. Here our referring to the Chrome and the application is driver. So here you need to mention driver dot. It will display the list of methods from class WebDriver. So all these are some of the methods from WebDriver class. We saw in the last session how to use this get method. Today we are finding an element, so we'll say find element. Also you have find elements, multiple elements. But here we are finding a single web element, so find element, input required is of type by class. And output of this method is a web element. Means one web element is found. Just double click. Here provide by dot, B should be capital, by dot. What is the locator we have inspected? It is ID, string input. String input is nothing but the value of it, that is email, which we have just found here. Right? Now, as we know, find element is nothing but a web element. If you want, you can assign to a variable. I can say this variable name is UNM. As the output type of this method is web element, and the variable holding that web element should be of type web element. W and E should be capital. Import this web element. Now our variable UNM is nothing but pointing to the text box from Facebook. Now we have found a text box. You need to enter data to it. So I can take this variable name dot. You need to enter data. These are the methods from web element. You can clear it. You can click over it, right? You can enter data to the text box by using a method here, send keys. Send keys, enter the data, even at gmail.com. This is the data. Okay, so here driver is your instance object, find element is a method of WebDriver class, by is a class, id is the locator, and this is the value, right? And send keys is a method used to pass some data to the web element. Now once you run this code, so once after loading, it will find the text box for email and enter data over here. Whatever we have, send it. Okay, so we have not found the password, so only data is entered to the email text box. So this is how using ID locator you can find one element, right? So next locator which we have, that is finding an element based on name. So by dot name locator and the value, here instead of ID you'll use a name locator. For example, if we inspect a password, here password is having type, class is also there, name as well as ID. So let's take and consider this name locator. The value for the name is pass. It's the same process again, driver dot find element by dot, now take the locator, that's a name, and pass the value. Now you can pass this to a variable as we did earlier. You can pass it to a variable and then send keys, or you soon after inspecting the web element, here also you can send the data. Suppose the data is test. Okay, now same way I want to log in, right? So I would inspect the button as well. Right click on the button. Now button is having value and you have data type is this, submit, ID is U08. Don't use the ID if it is having some odd kind of data like U underscore 0 underscore some numbers. Always prefer the data which is static, wholesome data. Don't go with some associated with underscores and numbers with it, because this data is not constant. It keeps on changing for every execution. The values are dynamic. So don't rely on such ID locator value. Instead of that, you can use some other tag name here, driver.find by dot tag name, and the value is submit. Not the tag name is not submit, it's an input tag. We can check with something else. This will not help us. Class name is also not there, right? So we'll take some other attribute. You can see on this button there is a label also there, login, that's a label over the button. So before that you see the label is there. Class, it has its own class, ID is also there, and this label is used for U08. That's nothing but your button, U08. So it is one and the same if you point to the button or to the label. Okay, it's one and the same. So you can take this class name if you need. You can take this class name value or this ID also. ID login button, and the action to this button would be click action. Now you can run the code. So it has entered the data, username and password, and also clicked on the button, so it has to move to the next page. Okay, so as the password and username is not valid, so it did not actually log in, but it has executed, right? So in this way you can use the ID and the name locator. Now we will see the few locators, like how to inspect a link with the help of link text, partial link text, and also how to design your own XPaths, that is absolute and the relative XPath. So this link text and partial link text are used for the links available over the applications. We will create a new class. With a public static void main, where we are going to launch the URL. You can take any application. So here I'm just taking the same Facebook application where you have some links. If you scroll down, you have a links, terms is a link, data policy is a link, cookies policy, there's all links, right? So here if I just inspect a data policy, you see it's an anchor tag having H reference, ID is also there, so you can take this ID for inspecting this link, and you have even a data link over the data. So this data policy is a text associated with the link. So with the help of locator link text, I'm just copying this text and going back to the Eclipse. We can find a link now with the help of driver dot find element by class, and here you have an option of link text, and link has to be provided as a string input, where the copied link text I'm placing here. So I can save it to a variable, or directly we can make an links are clicked, click action. You can just run this code. So that link has been clicked. We are on the right now on the data policy page. Okay, now coming here we can also take two more methods. Now this is a child window opened, and this is the parent window, Facebook. So if I want to close the parent window or close both the windows, we have two more methods. That's nothing but driver dot close, and second one is driver dot quit. So close will close the parent window, and quit will do closing of parent and child window. We can check that. First I would go for, I'm just commenting the close, will do the close action. Now this data policy, we can also inspect the element with a partial link. Like, now when I'm inspecting this data policy, instead of taking this complete text data as well as policy, I'll just copy only the data. Okay, I would just take only data, because sometimes later developers may change. Instead of data policy, they make it as a data terms or data information. So where I don't want to fail my automation script. If data is available, then it should inspect this link, irrespective of whatever would be the second set of data text available there. So that you can do with the help of partial link text. So going here, driver dot find by dot partial link text. I would give only data, and here the dot click. Now run the code, as we also have a close method. So the parent window is closed and child is left out. Now if I use quit, driver dot quit, after clicking on the link, both the windows would be closed. So if after execution, if you want to close the application in the browser, you can use this method. It's done. So this is how you can find the links with the help of linked text and partial linked text. Now we have something known as an XPath. So I'm just commenting all this code because I want to, okay, quickly I'll keep it, or I'm just commenting every code in the Facebook. Now how to use an XPath. XPath is nothing but giving the path of that element, web element. So maybe the path may be using with some attributes, or path can be designed based on the position. So the XPath can be of two types, absolute XPath and relative XPath. Absolute and relative. Okay. So absolute XPath is completely using attributes, locators. Attributes, it's the property values, and here relative is nothing but using based on position. This process we'll be doing every day in our session. No need to worry right now if it is very new to you, but you can just try to understand. The XPath created based using attributes, and relative means XPath based on location, position. For example, I go to, I want to find this email, right? I can right click, inspect. This is using attributes. I'm finding an element based on this ID email, right? So I can just right click on it to get the XPath, right click on this blue area, copy, and copy XPath. I would just come to Eclipse or to the notepad, just paste it. This is nothing but I got an XPath from my inspected element. So what is the meaning of this? This is actually an XPath. It's an based on attribute. What is the meaning? Throughout the Facebook, this slash is negative, throughout the Facebook, there is something, a tag. We don't know what is the tag, asterisk, and that tag is having one locator, and this is the value. And if you find it manually, that it, yes, ID is equal to email, that's correct. What is the tag name? Input. So if you want, you can edit it. Instead of asterisk, you can write the tag name input. You can edit your XPath. So this is the XPath based on one attribute, using an attribute value, finding an XPath. Now what is the position? Position is something like you need to specify where is this button, text box is, since from the HTML body. If you just scroll up, this is the header, body. From that, see the path hierarchy. There is a division, one more division, second div. These all are the tags, div, div. So it has to give, again you come across a form tag, then again a table, table body. Within the table body, in some rows, tr is for the row. Then there you will find td is for the column. There you will find a input tag. So this is known as a position, right? To get this position, I have one plugin, that's a CrowPath. Once you click on it, you get the CrowPath. Now you see here you will get both the locators, relative XPath, absolute XPath. Now if I just click on this icon, you get this is the absolute relative XPath. See, it's such a lengthy flow from the HTML body, so many divs. There you are coming across a form, there a table, table body, second row, first column, index are nothing but second and first column. There you'll find an input tag. This is nothing but different ways of finding the XPath. So how to use an element by using this XPath? Now you make sure whatever the ID you get with double quotes, make it into single quotes. Otherwise you'll get some errors, right? So you can just take this XPath and I can say driver dot find element by dot XPath. and give the XPath value over there. This is nothing but an XPath for the email text box. Then soon I'll be entering data to this. Welcome is the data. Let's check. So this XPath formation for different web elements, how to do this process would be everyday's task: inspecting the element, finding it, identifying it. So no need to worry, we'll be doing it more frequently, mostly every day. So based on the XPath, it should find the text box for email and enter data. So it has identified it. Okay, so this is how we find an element. Suppose if your locator value is different, it will not find the element. Suppose I make 123, email 123, and run the code. It come across an error because there is no web element with that value in the application. You see here there is an error. Line number 26 is error line. No such element exception. So there is no element with this locator XPath and with this value. Okay, so it specifies 11. You just double click on line number so and so, it points to the place where is that code with error. So this is all about how to find an element with the in Selenium WebDriver in the form and write it in the script format. Let's understand about two plugins which are useful to find the web elements properties. One note is these two plugins are only available with the older versions of the Firefox browser only. The older versions in the sense maybe the Firefox version 50 or 51.0. If your system is having these browsers, then only you are able to configure these plugins. Else no worries, you can use other available plugins for inspecting for the same purpose. But in case if you are having the older version of Firefox, only Firefox only, no other browser supports these plugins. So we'll understand what is a Firebug. Firebug is nothing but a plugin which is helpful for inspecting the element. As we do right click and do inspect, the same thing is done with the Firebug. And what is a Firepath? Firepath is used to know the path or find the XPath of the element. You can just open a Firefox browser. Go to this site of www.seleniumhq.org, or directly you can search it in Google. I'm going to the Downloads tab. There you have Selenium IDE. Here, I'm going to the Selenium IDE for Firefox. Okay, from here I can just search like download Firebug. Initially go add the Firebug. You'll find it directly the Firebug here available, but right now no Firebug is available directly because this current Firefox doesn't support the Firebug. So I can't add it. If you find that Firebug, just select it and say, as you find here the option add to Firefox, similarly you'll get there also the option of add to Firefox. Just click over it, and if it is asking you to install, just install. And if it asks you to restart the Firefox, just click on restart. It will automatically close and open the Firefox browser once again. So after adding the Firebug, you can also search for Firepath. So here also we don't have Firepath, no compatibility. If you find Firefox, just click on it and add to the Firefox browser. So in this manner you add these two tools. Once added, you'll find some icons for the Firebug and Firepath. If no, also when I'm inspecting any element, when I do right click, here you find the option of Firepath. As right now, Firepath is not configured to this new version of Firefox, but if you don't have, no worries, you can directly inspect element queue. This also will give you the properties of the web elements, the same manner as we did on the Chrome browser. So you can inspect element on any browsers, Firefox, Chrome, anywhere. I can right click on this, copy here. CSS XPath is not there. For XPath, you can use CrowPath. So using would be the same as we did with the Chrome browser. Select the CrowPath, and here automatically whichever element you inspect, you find the relatives XPaths here. Relative XPath, absolute XPath. And you need to just select it and get it. The process is the same whichever browser it is, but here only these are the different tools, Firebug and Firepath, only compatible with Firefox browser. They are not available with other browsers. So let's see an individual method. That's a get method. Our WebDriver object is a driver.getURL. Means it will just launch that particular passed URL. Similarly, getCurrentURL. This method will retrieve or display the current URL open on the browser. So it is going to return the output. Get is something returning a void output. The same way you have a getTitle, which will display the title present on the current page displayed. It has a return type of a string. Now similarly you have getText. Means a web element having a text display, like a link having some text, link text. So you can display the text present over that web element. You can also know the tag name for that element which you are inspecting, the CSS value of that particular element. You can also get the attributes values, okay, attribute of that particular web element. Here you can submit, as you say, enter some data. You can also submit that particular web element. And you can also retrieve the source code. You can close the application. Already we have discussed these two methods, close and quit, in our previous session. Okay, so let's see practically how to use these methods. So get attribute, which is taking a string input, that's nothing but a locator. So once identified any web element, you can get the attribute of it. Create a new class. I just call it as web elements with the main method. So in this class, as you need to launch the browser with the required URL, we are going to take system.set property, and with the help of get method, launching of the URL. So as we know, this is one of the method already we have discussed. Get is a one method of the WebDriver class, whose return type is void and input is a string, where you need to pass the required URL to be launched. Now on this Facebook, I can inspect any element. I want to know the title of this opened application. So for that, you have driver.getTitle method. Return type is a string. As it is returning a string output, the title you can assign to a variable, and declare the data type of that variable as string data type. As the result is in this variable, now you can display the result sysout system.out.println. Here I can say title is concatenated with the variable. Okay, this would display the title. You can run it, execute Java application, save and launch the program, and it would now launch the Chrome browser with the required URL. Here it will try to display the title of the opened application. So you see here the title is Facebook login or sign up. This is the title, which you'll find it's still executing. It should be displayed you here. Yeah, this is your title. The same way I can also use now driver. I want to close this open application after execution, so we can mention here driver.close. So just here. Driver.close, so that the browser open application will be closed. Now the same way manner you can also get the current URL. So here again driver dot, the method get current URL, that's again a string. So directly you can use display it without passing it to a variable. System.out.println, your driver instance just a second. Eclipse is not responding. So here I'm just taking the driver instance, driver dot get current URL. So when you run this, it will display the URL of the opened application. So once executed, you'll find the output on the console, the title as well as the URL. So we can say here driver dot find element by dot ID, and here we are passing the value email, right? So as it is returning a web element, I can store it to a variable unm, and this is a web element. Just import the web element. And this web element I can say here sysout unm, whatever the web element we have, the properties of this web element, like I want the get attribute of it, right? Similarly, we can say get attribute, which attribute value we need. I need the ID attribute value, right? Similarly, we can say sysout unm dot get css value, get the tag name of this inspected data. Just run it. So once it executes all the methods, so it's closed. You see here the URL is this, and get attribute of ID. What is the value of this locator ID? It's an email which you got with the help of method get attribute. What is the tag name of this inspected element? The tag which we have used was ID, right? This was the tag. Where is that? Here, this is your tag name which I have used. When you inspect it, the input is the tag name of that web element. So you see in the result, input is a tag name. So these are few of the elements, methods of the WebDriver. So we need to understand why we need to use this navigate methods, because you don't have the attributes for navigation options. That's the reason we have the methods. So this is the syntax of using navigate, your driver instance, navigate method, then specify to which URL you need to forward. Then you can move as you click on the backward forward for the page navigation. You have a method forward method to move ahead, refreshing the page and moving back to the page. So let's see a practical aspect of these using these methods. So in the Eclipse, just trying to launch the URL, create a new class, with the main method. I'll just take a Google application, google.com. So this is the Google page launch, and if you observe here, this is the title. Google is the title, and there is an images link. Once I click on the image link, it will go to the image page where the title is changed to Google Images. And if I want to come back to the previous page, I just click on this back button, right? Because I can't inspect or automate this option because we don't have any attributes over it. If I right click, you don't find any inspect option. So for that reason, we have directly the methods for it. So back method will help you by clicking on the back option. If I want to move forward, forward method is there, right? And also if I want to refresh the page, also is possible with this, equivalent to clicking on this refresh option. So what I would do is, first once after launching this Google page, to click on the images link, first you need to inspect the images and get its attributes. The image link A tag, the link text is available, images. So you need to find an element using the link text, driver dot find element by dot the link text, the images. Once you click over it, then it would go to the Google Images page. So maybe as soon as you click, it may not reach to the next page. It may take some time. So to tell the WebDriver wait for certain time period to load the second page, we'll be passing a wait statement. That is thread dot, there is a method sleep, and you need to specify the duration, how long it is going to wait. So the sleep method takes the input in the form of milliseconds. I give 2000 milliseconds, that is 2 seconds. What is a thread? Thread is nothing but a class of Java, and sleep is a method. Now here you need to add the exception handling, because when the executor is in the sleep mode, it may get interrupted. So to handle that interruption, you can handle with the help of try catch or throws, either way. So I've handled this exception with the throws here. Then after that, I need to you can do one thing, this launching of the browser, you can do in this manner. Instead of using get method, we can also say driver dot navigate. This is a method navigate. Navigate dot to. and where you need to give this URL. This will also launch the application. Okay. Now after that, you need to just after clicking on this link, you want to move backward. So for that, you have a method driver dot navigate dot back. So this will take your control to the first page. That also would take some time, so you can give some thread dot sleep after clicking on the back button, maybe like 1000 milliseconds. Okay, so then if you need, you can also just display some sysout statement as well. Sysout back executed, back done, or something you can mention, right? After that, you want to move forward, driver dot navigate dot forward, and give the time period and a message to understand that we have executed that particular statement. Then I want to refresh it, driver dot navigate dot refresh. That's done. Refreshed. I can put a statement, refresh done. Okay, so you can just run the code and check whether the application is performing the actions as we have mentioned. So clicking on, after loading, it'll click on the images link. Clicked, it's in the images page. It has to move back, then forward, again refresh. So if you check, the sysout statements are displayed, so that indicates the methods got executed. So this is all about the navigation methods of WebDriver class. Now this is how we usually find an element, by using a method find element and then passing the locator and its value. Also we are aware of send keys method as well. So here is a clear method which can be used with a web element, where it clears the content of the existing data in the web element. Click, it's used equivalent to clicking on the web element or submitting the data. And is enabled is used to find the status, whether that web element is active. If it is active, or then it will return true value. Okay, then is selected is something, if the element is already selected, clicked, then the status would be true. Is selected is true. And similarly, is displayed, one more web element we have, method we have, means whether that particular element is present on the application or not. So that also returns either true or false. Now discussing these elements in the application, we can create a new class. Status is a class name. We'll take the Facebook application. In this Facebook application, here we find there is an image. Okay, this indicates this is a Facebook page, right? So I want to, based on this image, I'll inspect it initially, then I'll use the 3 different methods on it. Okay, so okay, let's inspect this element. It's an image tag having class, source, that's it. There are no IDs, no names, right? So then how to inspect this element? then you can go and create an XPath for this element. So to get the XPath, you can just click on this on the right side double arrows, go and select the crow path, and here you have a relative XPath which is designed based on the div having a class attribute, and within that image having a class is equal to image. So here you see the inspected element image is having a class is equal to img value. So it is just finding the element. If I select this XPath, it's saying on the Facebook you will find a div tag having a class and the class value is underscore 5iyy. Under that, going ahead, you'll find one more image tag having class is equal to image. So we know where right now the image is this, and where is this class with 5iyy? You can just move forward here. This is the class. So throughout the Facebook, it will first look for this class div tag. Under that, it is you are going to find the image. So this is an XPath based on the attribute. So you can inspect the element using it. Driver.find by dot XPath and the value. Within double quotes. So I can save this web element to a variable. IMG is a variable name. Now I want to find the status of this image, whether image is present on the page. Is it existing on the page, true or false? So I can write directly, because sys out driver dot, not driver, it's an image you need to find, right? So img, the variable dot and the variable name method. See, you have here is displayed, enable selected, the outputs are boolean output. So you can store it to a variable of boolean data type or use it directly to display. So I use the first method is displayed. Is it displayed on the page? It should return true, right? Similarly, is enabled, is it active? It should be true. Is selected, did you select the image? It should be false, because we haven't selected any image over there. You do not click over it, right? We have just inspected it. So you can see the three outputs. Okay, so this is all about the getting the status. We have a clear method. So what we can do is, for clear example, we can enter some data to this email. So inspect the email attribute. It is ID is equal to email. So you can write here driver dot find element by dot ID and the value of it. I would save this to a web element variable username. Now what I will do is, initially I would send some data to this username. So username dot send keys, I would say welcome is the data to it. After that I would clear it. So unm dot clear, so it would clear the entered data and then re-enter something else, new content, even at gmail.com. Okay, so you just want to see the difference of this clear. That's it. Run the code. And here it's an end of the program here actually. So it is entering, it has entered the first data, cleared it, and then entered the new content. If you want to really see the difference, you can add some time period here, thread.sleep, as we did earlier. Some 500 milliseconds. And then execute the clear. Okay, so these are the methods. So when you're inspecting any web element, you can find among these the tags available. That's an A tag, that's known as an anchor tag, which is mainly used for identifying or creating the links. B specifies the bold. Okay, table tag, to represent a table where the data or a kind of a calendar where in the grid format when the data is displayed, table is mentioned. TR represents the row, TD for the column. These are the tags. Select tag mostly you find when there is a drop down component web element. And buttons, as you know, it is available for the buttons. Span, if there is some text available. Input tag you'll find mostly for all the text boxes, radio, password, check boxes, buttons. When you want to represent any image on the application website, img tag is there. I represents the italic font. When frame is something, a layer of HTML page placed over another main HTML page. So that frame represents with the tag name iframe. That's nothing but inline frame. You find div tags, okay, where you have within another you are inserting, subplacing the web elements. There you find a div tags. So these are the available tags present in the HTML. Consider that we just want to find, you see here when you inspect any element, the HTML tags are displayed here. When you just scroll up, the HTML tag starts with HTML and ends with /HTML. You have a header tag where the header part of this Facebook is placed. Okay, these are all the titles. You find the title of the Facebook over here under the tag name title. Similarly, you have the body for HTML, and here this is a div tag. Under that one more div. Each div has certain properties. Class is one attribute, right? And you can just see there are multiple divs. You find a form is also a one tag having some attributes, ID and what action it is referring to, login. Then input tags are relating to one. These are the hidden. Okay, some elements are hidden. So these are especially for the text boxes, fields, drop downs, combo boxes, right? Table is there. Within that table, a table body, tr for the row. Okay, and you find the column as well. And these all are the input tags. You also find image. Yeah, here you find the image tag, and also you find p. Here there is no p. I is there, that's representing the italic form. Okay, and yes, that's it. So these are the available tags. So as you come across, we'll be seeing all these tags now and then. A span is there, where inside the span you have much content, some content is included. Okay, so these are nothing but the tags. Iframe is also available here with some attributes. So when you inspect any element, these are nothing but the tags. Within each tag, it represents to one particular web element within which the attributes are specified. So this is our application. I would just find the password, inspect the password here, and these are the attributes you find. This a tag name is input, type is password, class is input, name is pass. So ID is also there, but we want to see an example with name. So name is equal to pass. So take this value pass and write the code driver dot find element by dot the name locator, and the value which you have after inspection which you have copied pass is given here, and you can save this to a web element with different variable name pwd password, and to this password you will be entering the data now. Password dot send keys, the password, it's a string, test is a password. Now if you run, this will find the password based on the locator using locator name and the value pass and pass the data. So this is how you can inspect the element using name locator. The same way, if I want to find any element with a class, how to inspect it? Just going to the, here you have a class tag. Class is equal to input text. Okay, class is equal to input text. Suppose I'm just taking this name as an example, input text, and how will you find it? Here again, driver dot find element by dot, you see your class name and specify the value. This is another web element using the class name, right? Now just similarly you have some more tag name. Okay, what is the tag name here? Input. So based on input is a tag name, driver dot find by dot the tag name and the name of the tag. This is okay. And if I want to click over the link, inspecting the link, as on this application I have forgot account link, inspect it. It's an A tag, anchor tag, H reference, and the text over the link is what? Forgotten account question mark. That's seen, you can see it here in the HTML tag here, the HTML code, forgotten account. So taking this tag, link text, and I can find an element. Driver dot find an web element by dot, you have a link text and paste the text over there. What action we have to perform over the link? Click. Let's get click. Now we'll just execute it, entering data to username, password, we have commented these lines, and clicking on the link. So it is launching the browser. The test password and link is identified and clicked. So it went to the find an account page where you can try to recover the password. Right? So this is how you can find the elements. Also you have partial link text wherein you will give the partial information of this text. This is the complete link text, right? By dot partial link text, and this is the complete link actually. and out of which only I'll give forgotten. I'm deleting the account. So just based on partial information, it will find the link, the matching web element from the application, and would passing the partial information. So this tag would be useful to find the web element. So this is how you can use different locators to automate any web element in Selenium WebDriver. So XPath is nothing but specifying the path of an web element. So we use XPath in a scenario where you don't have any other locators available. Likewise, like if you don't have any ID or name or tag name, nothing is available, and if any web element is present on the application, you can find it by the last option. You can say XPath. So here in XPath, what is this XPath? It's nothing but a language that describes a way to locate, okay, from your HTML code. Now in XPath you have two types you can create, absolute and the relative. So relative XPath is the path of the web element based on certain attributes, available attributes, and absolute XPath is something from the root location, from the very home location, from the starting point of the page, identifying a particular web element. So we can just check like what is the absolute and relative XPath with the help of one plugin, that's a CrowPath. Now here you can create your own XPath by using this syntax you find here, /. That's let me tell you what is the meaning of this / and /. You see in relative XPath you mostly get this / and then the path. So this / indicates look for the web elements or the locators which are present, like a parent and the child, the grandchild, and under that whatever might be there. Okay, so this indicates on the Facebook page, start for looking for a tag name, asterisk means any tag name, having an ID so and so value. Under that you'll find a child, grandchild, UL. Under that one more grandchild, LI, which is a third positioned. Under that an anchor tag. So here you're giving the path, the child, the grandchild, and so on present in this parent location. Okay, so coming to the other side, the absolute XPath, here you mostly find a single slash that indicates it's specifying the location of the inspected web element from the very node position, like in HTML body, then you'll find a div 2 means second div, then immediately first div, then again first div, footer, section 3, div, li 3, and then anchor tag. So this is the complete path it is specifying, and here from the intermediate location, the parent, it is showing the subnodes. That's about the relative. Now when you're creating the XPath, okay, the relative XPath, we take this syntax. Within / any tag name. If you don't know the tag, generally you can specify asterisk, but mentioning the tag would be better. Like if I'm inspecting a button or input text or text box, the tag name would be input. Then you need to use a square bracket, @, then any attribute which is available for that web element. Take any attribute. If ID is there, I would take ID, name, or class, that's way. Okay, and then specify the value of that attribute within single quotes. Okay, so for example, you can just check this practically. I am taking this Facebook, I am inspecting this email. When you inspect it manually, you find it's an input tag, right? Similarly, you will have a CrowPath here. CrowPath is already selected here, CrowPath, and it is capturing the XPath of it. If you see the XPath, how is it? It's an input tag. Okay, if I select it, it /, the tag name is input, within square bracket the attribute, that is ID, this is what the attribute, and the value of it. So it is following the same syntax, tag name, attribute, and the value. So for example, this is what, if you see the Facebook input tag ID attribute, right? That is one way of XPath. Also, you can create an XPath with the help of multiple attributes. Like in our previous example, we have used only one attribute to find an XPath. Now, if an element is not able to find with only one attribute, with ID not happening, then I can take help of another attribute as well. Name is equal to email. By following this syntax, first attribute, then within square bracket specify the second attribute. Like for example, here you have a name attribute, so I can just continue within square bracket, add symbol, and the attribute is name equals to email. So now this element would be identified with the help of two. When you put an enter key, you find here one matching node, means one element is found from this application. So with the help of multiple attributes also, you can create an XPath. So here you have OR operator. The previous one which we have discussed is an AND operator immediately. Means when both the attributes are matching, then only element would be identified. In the second case, OR operator means either if one attribute or the second one, if it is matching with the element properties, it will find the element. Like for example, as we have written here square bracket, I can take out here and put an OR. Either email or ID is matching, find the element. This is an OR operator. Now same way you have the other format. Any tag name, any tag means the asterisk, it indicates an asterisk. Then comes the locator and its value. So here instead of input tag, I can also mention star asterisk. So that indicates it can be any tag name. It can be input tag name or TD. So from the Facebook, whichever tags having these properties will be inspected. That's an asterisk. Following this syntax. Tag name, attribute, and the value. So if a tag is having some text, okay, if it is not having ID, neither name, some text is there, then how to find it? A tag having a text, this is the syntax, text, simple bracket equals to in single quotes, provide the value. So having the text means suppose this forgotten account is a link, it's a text, right? So I've inspected, the link text is what? Forgot account. So if you go with the XPath of this, I select this is the XPath you got. See here, you got automatically the XPath. The tag name, as you have mentioned, the tag name, the text equals to the value. So here they have used the contains. Also you can use contains, means the anchor tag is containing the text that's forgot account. This is one syntax, okay? Or else I can go with text equals to the one which is mentioned in this text is equal to one matching node found. Means you are finding an anchor tag having a text. This is the text which according to the syntax. Contains also can be used, means the tag web element is containing that particular text. Also you can use starts with, means the text is starting with certain word, then you can use starts with. So here taking it, I can say here the text is starting with comma, means a text is starting with forgotten, not a complete, just a sub part of it. So it is finding an element, one matching node is found. So these are the different ways how you can find it. If you don't want to match the complete text, you can use starts with. So contains, as we already discussed, containing some text. The link is containing some text. Okay, last, what is the last character? You can also specify it. Here this comes the relative. Relative XPath means you're going to give the path in the input tag you'll find a div, one more div, as we have inspected here. Not exactly this. I can take this one, inspect it. Not this. It's not giving a correct okay, for example, you can just understand this. Here under div 2 there is one more div 1, div 1. So in this way, when you're mentioning the child and the subchilds, okay, that is known as nothing but the relative with absolute. Means you're mentioning the starting point and then mentioning what are the different tags available beyond that. You're finding an input tag with this, under that a div, one more input under that. Means this is a parent and under that you're looking for a child. So in this way also you can specify your, see, it is completely up to a tester in what way he is finding the web element. Okay, so here these are the method, you can say symbols, double slash, asterisk, okay, square bracket, at symbol used for text identification, or okay, then slash, colon, comma. So you will be using these symbols when you're creating, identifying the XPath. So mainly CSS selector is used to find the dynamic objects. It's used to handle the dynamic objects. So we also have discussed the XPath. So XPath is also used to find the dynamic objects as well as CSS. So what is the difference, exact difference between the two? Because XPath behaves differently in different browsers. So that is one advantage where you can prefer CSS, where it is faster in execution and does not change on different browsers as you keep on changing the browsers. Okay, so also you can see some more where you can see the explanation about the CSS like selector. It's used for automation explicitly to identify the element. So you in this CSS also you have the locators like ID, class name, attribute. You can use contains, start with, ends with. All those locators which we were using in XPath you will find in CSS selector as well. So here you see CSS is much faster and simpler than XPath, especially in the IE browser automation. So you find the tag name. You can use in CSS the tag name, ID, class, attribute, contains, starts with and ends with. So let's discuss each of this method. Now when you are inspecting any element, you especially find in the crow path also you'll find the CSS selector along with absolute and relative XPath. So what about the tag name? If an element is having a tag name, right? Here the tag is input over here, right? So how to create a CSS for it? So this is the syntax. So CSS is equal to the tag name and you need to specify the hash. Hash is mainly used to identify the ID attribute. So hash and then the value of that locator. So for example, you have an ID is equal to email. So then you can make a CSS as input is a tag name. Instead of ID, you use hash and the value of it. So now the XPath, you can say the path of by the CSS would be input hash and the value. This you can take as a input value for your locator CSS selector, right? And then you can pass the data to it. The same way you have a class. Now how to, based on a class, how to find an element? So the syntax for that would be the tag name. The class is identified with a dot, right? And then the value of the class attribute. Okay. Then the attribute itself, when you have any other attribute, how to inspect it? You can use the tag name. Then within square bracket, write the text attribute equals to and the value of the attribute. So for example, here if ID or type or you can say value. Those are the attributes. So the particular attribute equals to and the value of it. Okay, so in this way you can find it. Also you can use the starts with. Means if you want to find an element starting with some text, then you can write here, this is the tag name, the locator, and this upper tint is known as an starts with, that indicates a starts with, and the string with what you're going to start with. Similarly, you'll find ends with. Ends with is used with the dollar symbol. So ID is ending with the value ID, the text ID. So we'll just see an example on this. Let's go to the application, inspect any element, and this is a HTML code for that element. And you see in the crow path already there's a relative XPath and absolute XPath and CSS selector. Now how is the CSS selector designed? Hash email. So hash email is the CSS selector. ID, hash indicates ID. See here, if you inspect it manually, its ID is equal to email. ID is email. So it is replacing ID with hash and the value of that is email. So I can take this element for inspecting the web element. So copy it. And when you're using any automation tool, just for example, I'm just writing here, how do you specify it? So you find when you're working in your on project, you find some locators or identification is done using CSS selector. So you say here driver. So here we are going to pass by dot, and here you find a CSS selector, and here you need to provide the string, the content, whatever you have. And to this web element, whatever the web element we have, this is a locator value for the text box. Here I can send the data, send keys, whatever the data. So this is how you can use a CSS selector, and this is a manner by using other methods like ID, class name, locator, you can create the value. So CrowPath is nothing but a tool, a plugin which is available for different browsers. You can add CrowPath for Firefox and Chrome as well. So what is the purpose of this CrowPath is? It is useful for creating an XPath for your web element. Okay, so you can first of all you need to configure this CrowPath for your browser and then try to use it. So for adding to the browser, you can just go to the Google and say download CrowPath for Chrome browser. You can just, then you get the CrowPath here, just click over it. You need to, already CrowPath is available to my Chrome browser, so it is asking me to remove. Else when you try it, you will say add to Chrome. Just click over it. It will say, do you want to install it? Say yes, install. And if it asks you to restart, just restart it, so that your browser would be just closed and reopened. So once done, you will find this icon. This is a CrowPath icon. So this indicates it's properly configured. Now how to use the CrowPath is, you will find the CrowPath so when you're inspecting any element, when you inspect any element, you want the XPath of this inspected element. So what you can do, on the right side, if you don't see here the styles computed here, the CrowPath, just click on this arrows and under that you will find a crow path. Just select it. Now this is your crow path, which is having the selectors, and this is a text box where the XPath would be selected. So with crow path you can get relative XPath, absolute XPath, and CSS as well. So whichever XPath you have got, when you just click on this icon, that selected XPath would be displayed over here. Okay, this is your absolute XPath and this is a CSS of the inspected element. I want to inspect another element. This is your second element which we have inspected. Now these are the locators, right? Path, XPath. This is the relative, absolute, and CSS. So in this manner you can use crow path while creating the XPath. How to automate the checkboxes? So checkbox is also one of the web element from the applications. You find these checkboxes in most of the applications where you need to apply some filtration or some options to be selected. You can use these checkboxes. Now you can understand this with an example. You can check with the application Amazon where if you want to apply some filtration for your search, you'll find the checkboxes. So going to the amazon.in. So in the search, I would enter some keyword to the search, for example phones, and I would click on the search button. You would display the products, and here on the right side you find you can filter the products as well. Based on the specifications you can filter it. Suppose I'm clicking on this option, so based on that filtration you'll find the required products. So this we are going to try to automate using the checkbox. So first, initially, once after launching the application, we would enter the product in the search bar and click search. We are creating a new class here, checkbox, with the main method. And here we are trying to launch the application, and the application will be Amazon. So take the URL, now you need to inspect the search bar where you enter the product. So right click, inspect. So based on the available locators, you need to find the element. So here it is an input tag having text, ID, value, name. So I think ID would be fine here to inspect it. So taking the ID value, say driver.find, by.id, the value, and we are going to send some keyword to it. So send keys, the data, the keyword is phones. Okay, after this you're going to click on this search button. So inspect this search. It's an input tag, type is equal to submit. So you can create an XPath for this or directly take the type is equal to submit. Here the XPath is value is equal to go. So we're trying to inspect it once, driver.find, by.xpath, and the action would be click action. Now in the application, after entering the phones and clicking on the search, it would take some time to display the products. So we can give some time duration, thread.sleep, maybe 1500 milliseconds. Handle the exception of interruption exception, and then once after clicking on here, you find the filtration. You can select any, just right click, inspect it. And if you observe, this is an input tag for the filter, which is placed under a label, and that label is under a div. Okay, and that div is under a span, one more span, and that span is in turn under a list. Means you find as I'm moving the mouse, different filter options are selected, checkboxes. They are the list placed under a div, that all together. Now I want to select on this 2.2 to 2.4 H gigahertz. So this is that option. You can take an XPath of this. This is the XPath. And find the element and do a click action. Okay. So here we are just driver.find by dot the XPath, and this is the element which we are going to select. So dot click action. You can just run the code. So here the objective is to understand how to find the attributes of any web element. It can be either radio button, checkbox, doesn't matter. We need to understand the relative HTML code for it. So once the application is launched, it has to enter the search product. And go for the filter option. It got clicked. And this is your required search. Okay. So that's how you can automate the application. How to work with drop-down web elements. So in most of the applications, you find these drop-downs where you have a provision of selecting some value under the displayed list. So for that reason, we can go to an application and let's create a class in the Eclipse. with the main method. And here you need to include the code of launching the browser with the URL. So on the application, so here on this application you find here the drop downs for date selection. Here this drop down is selecting a particular day among ranging from, there's a text day and the values are ranging from 1 to 31 days. So from this list you can select one particular value that gets displayed in this drop down. The same way according to for the months as well, where text is there, the different months are selected, and similarly for the years as well. So these are the drop downs. Now we'll try to inspect the drop down. So first you need to inspect this drop down element. So just right click and say inspect. So it'll display the HTML code of that particular web element. Let's inspect it once. Okay. Yeah. So it is showing a select tag. Okay, it's showing a select tag where having the attributes that's a name, ID, title, okay, and the class attribute, class value. So within this select tag you find the different values under it, means the options, having a tag options and the values, that's a day, 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. Okay, so now you need to inspect the select tag and then select the values within it. So you can inspect this value based on ID. ID is equal to day. You can take the day and find an element initially. So driver.find dot find element, by dot, the inspected locator was an ID and the value of it. Now this is nothing but a web element. We will pass it to a variable. Suppose day is a variable. Just import the required imports needed. Now we need to, as it is a tag, is a select tag. Here you see select tag. Under this select you have many options within it. Okay, so I need to create an object for the select class. So select, I say d1 is an object, equals to new select. And when you're selecting up, you need an object to select the options under this day. So pass this day variable web element to this select class. Now import the select. It's importing from Selenium Support UI. Once the object is ready, now you can select any particular value directly. Suppose I want to select the value, any of this value, okay, from these options. So this is what right now selected is 1. Okay, so I can use here the object name we have created, that is d1 dot. You find here the methods of used with the select class, that is deselect all, select by, deselect by index, right? As well as now we need for select. Now you have 3 options: select by index, select by value, select by visible text. I'll show you all the 3. I'll take select by index. The index position may be at the 3rd index, whatever is the value of value, select it. d1 dot select by value. You need to give the value of it. Suppose I say it's a string input 2. Whatever is the value matching to, select it. d1 dot select by visible text. Right now we'll check what is the visible text, and then we'll try to mention it. Now if you go here, in this option you have a value attribute, value 0, value 1, value 2, value 3. So I've selected value 2, which is in double quotes. Okay, and that is what value 2. Index, as you know, the first, the second, third, that's the index position it selects. And what is meant by visible text? Visible text is something if you're having the data as a text format, like suppose day is a text, 1 is a text, 2 is a text, 3 is a text. So this day I want to pass it, I want to select based on it. So it is a string, select the day. So we'll try to execute one by one. I'm just commenting the rest too and run this code. The 3rd index should be selected. Now from the drop down, the value 3 got selected. So the 3 is nothing but the index at the 3rd. Index 3 we have selected, right? Index 3, this is 0, 1, 2, 3. So 3 got selected. The same manner, if I take a value, wherever value 2 is there, that would be executed. And after selecting, I want the text out of it. So I can write sysout. What is the day locator? That's a day. Day dot. I can use get attribute of that value. I want the data present in the attribute value. Run it. The locator value, whatever it is containing, that would be selected. And that was actually 2 we have passed. And you see, whatever is the attribute, that content displayed over the drop down, that's a get attribute value. And the 3rd, gets visible text day, means while execution it will select the day option, right? Like if I select here, day will come. So that is what would be the output for the 3rd option. Okay, so these are the different ways how you can select directly a particular value. Now suppose if a requirement is I want to select one by one all the value from that list. So what I have to do? I have to collect all these options values and put it into one list, to a variable, all these options. And then with the help of a for loop, pick one by one and display it. Get it? On the console of your Eclipse. So what I do to collect all the values from this list, from this drop down, what I have to use? I have to use a method get options. So how are you going to refer to those all the options? You have an object d1, right? So you can say d1 dot, there's a method here, get options. which is going to give you the web elements, multiple web elements. So you'll put it in a list. List of web element. You'll name that list as suppose DD. Import from Java util. Now you want to know total how many values are there web elements in this DD. You can write this out. DD dot size. That will display you the count. Okay, that's about the count. Now if I want to execute them in a for loop, so I can declare a for loop, declare a variable starting with 0 and a condition where it should stop. It should stop at the size, right? So this dd dot size itself is going to give you the count. So you can pass it to a variable or use the variable, else directly you can say dd dot size. That would give you the count of web elements to be moved on. Then you keep on incrementing the loop. Now when you're within the loop, what we have to do, you have to go to each option. You have to go to each option and get the value and display. Second option, get the value. I won't click, because if I click, this list would disappear. So I won't click. I'll just keep on next. I'll take and try to display it. So to get this value and try to display, we'll be using a method get text, right? So as these values, all values are present in this dd, so dd dot get to a particular value, as it is moving from the very first value, that is 0, which is referred with y. So get to I and dot get text, get text string output. So this string you can display it. Okay, and suppose if you want to click over it, click the each and every, if I say click, it will just click. Okay, that value gets clicked. Suppose if I say dd dot get of that I, and if I want I can click also. You can just run this. So you see all the values are just got clicked 1, 2, 3, 4. You can put some time period. Okay, and you find the on the console also they got displayed here. The count was there, total, the how many elements are there, 32. It starts with the day 1, 2, 3, 4 up till 31. Okay, so this is how you can work with the drop downs. So let's understand how to work with radio buttons, because you find in some applications to select some gender or some options, you find radio buttons available. So for example, like on a Facebook application where you're creating an account, you need to select the gender, right? Female or male. So you can select only one option out of these two radio buttons, right? That means you can if one is selected, the other should be disabled, or if one is enabled, the other should be disabled. That means these two radio buttons are grouped together under one section, so out of which only one option will be selected. So let's understand how to inspect and what are the attributes of it. And each radio button has a label as well. So first radio button has a label female and the second has male. So I would just inspect the first one, inspect it. You find here it's an input tag. It's an input tag. You have some attributes, that's a type, radio, name is equal to sex, value 1, ID is U09. Along with this radio button, there's a label below that's having a text label, that's a female, right? And these two radio button and the label are placed under a span having some class attributes. So there are two spans. As I move my mouse to the first span, it is selecting the female option from the application, and the second one the male. And these two spans are placed under one more span here, having some class. See, I'm moving to this span here. The complete options of female and male are got selected. Under that, two spans are there, each span holding the radio and its label. Hope that's clear. So now I would take this input tag, suppose now I need to collectively find these two radio buttons because they are grouped together, right? So which is that common property for these two radio buttons to consider or to find? So if you check the attributes here, you have IDs are different. Here it is U09 and the second for male it is U0A. They're different. So this will not help us. And if you go for the value, here value is 1 and here it is 2. So you can rely on name, so where the value is same, sex is the value. So if I inspect the element with this attribute, two elements will be identified. One is the male and the female. So I would take this attribute and go to the Eclipse. Here we are going to create a class. Create a new class over here. Suppose I say the class name is radio with a main method to this. And here we are going to automate this class. So we need to launch the application. So as anyways we are into the Facebook only. Now we need to find those two elements with this value. Name is equal to this value. So driver dot, we saw find element, it's to find a single element. Now we need to find multiple elements. So take the method find elements with some locator, and this method is going to give you web elements, multiple. So I'll store it into a list. So list is one form, is from the collection concept of Java, where list can hold multiple duplicate elements as well. So the elements where the list is going to hold is the web elements. So take this method. So by dot, it's a name, and here is the name of the value which we are inspecting, and the output of this method is nothing but a list. I would store it into you can say gender is the variable name. As this variable is having many values, that's a list, and the list is holding web elements. Okay, web element. Now import the web element and import the list also. When you're importing the list, two imports you find: import from java.awt and java util. Always go for java util package. Now your gender is having two radio buttons. If you want to verify whether how many elements are there, you can take this gender, that's your web element, dot, you find a method size. You can just check here. Size. So size method gives you the count, how many elements are there in that variable, integer output, and the size can be used with a variable of type list. So it is going to give you a count, so I can store it into a variable cnt, and as it is returning an integer type, declare cnt to integer. Now you can display the count, how many web elements are there in this our cnt, right? So when you run this code, it will display you 2 web elements. Okay, so next is, now I need to select one after another the radio button. You have 2, right? So you can implement now the for loop of Java concept. Now if one radio button is not selected, then select it. If that is my requirement, then what I can do, I can first we'll go with the for loop. The syntax for, I can declare any variable integer I starting with 0, right? And then you need to give the condition, that's I reaching to the count. Once this count is done, your for loop should stop. So reaching to the count and the increment. I please. Now inside this for loop, you are trying to implement the code. Now what is that code? You need to keep on clicking on every web element. Means click on the first female radio button and then male radio button. So as the radio buttons are present in this gender variable, I can take here the variable dot. There is a method known as a get to that index. First initially I is to 0, so it has to go to according to I value. So get index, get to that web element. As I is moving to 0, it will go to the first 0th web element, and if you want to click over it, you can click, or you want to know the text, get text of that web element. As it is returning the text, I can save it into a string variable txt, and we can display here the text as well. After displaying the text, you need to click on that web element. So here I can mention gender dot go to that, get to that I value, and dot click action. Okay, so in this case what happens, first it will try to identify the female radio button and click over it. Get the text out of it initially, print it and click. Then I will increment, means go to the next web element, right? So when you go to the next web element, it's a male, right? So automatically this loop should execute once again. But before every looping, you want to wait for certain time period, then you can use thread.sleep. That's you're giving a wait time period before going to the next looping. So maybe 1000 milliseconds we can provide. Exception handling while. Okay, so now you can just run the code and check. You can observe the radio buttons. First female will be selected because, and then male. After that count is over, all the web elements are done, it stops the looping. So you can observe here the male and female. First female, wait period, then male. Done. Okay, and if you observe the here, this is your output. Okay, so this is how you can use the for loop. Web alerts, which you also find window alerts as well. And to handle these alerts, we are going to use the following methods: switch to, accept, and dismiss. So alerts are something like a pop-up which are appearing on your applications or desktop when you're handling your any of the tools or uploading files. So those are nothing but alerts or pop-ups, where you find some acceptance or cancellation options along with it. So coming to the alerts, there are two types: web alerts and window alerts. The pop-ups or alerts you find when you're working with web application, they are termed as web alerts, and the same notifications when you find using some Windows application, uploading files sort of thing, they are known as window alerts. Now here, but the window alerts can't be handled with Selenium WebDriver. You need to use different tools for it, Auto IT or Sikuli sort of thing. That we'll be discussing later. So today in this session, we'll be working with web alerts. So we're working with web alerts. We need to use a method that is a switch to, because you need to switch your control from your application to the pop-up. So this method will help us. Then you need to perform certain operations over it. The reason is because on the alert there you find two options, either accepting or ignoring or dismiss. So a method to accept or click OK is nothing but accept method. It's equivalent to clicking on the OK button. And dismiss is a method which is helpful for clicking on the cancel button over the notification. But in some alerts you find only one option, OK. So in that case you can use either method, that is dismiss or accept. And also you find some text is displayed over the pop-up. If you want to get the text, you can use the method get text. Okay. And also you can, if you want to enter some data to the fields available over the pop-ups, we can use send keys method to send the data. So let's see an example, practical aspect of it. So we are just creating a new package. Let's create a new package here. So in this package we are creating a class for alert handling with a main method, and we need to launch the application where you may find some alerts. So here we are going to take any booking site where alerts may appear. So I'm taking a redbus.in. So in this application, if without entering any source and the destination from and to, if I click on search bus, or else you can take some other URL, ksrtc.com. Okay, let's take this URL. So in this URL you find here the booking, leaving from and coming to. If you don't provide any details to it and click on search for bus, this is my pop-up. This is a pop-up having only one option, OK. There's no cancel here. So you can use either method, accept or dismiss. And there's also text available over this alert. Please select start date. This is a text. So now the control, I can't do any actions on my applications unless I close this alert pop-up. So I have to click on OK, then only my control will come back to the main page. Okay. So now what we have to do after login to the application, we need to click on the search bus button. So we need to inspect it. So here you find it's a button having some class attribute, submit, on, click. So we can take an XPath for this. It's a button, type is equal to submit. Driver.find. py.xpath and the path. We need to make a click action over it, and to display the pop-up it needs some time, so we would take a thread.sleep maybe some 2000 milliseconds, handle the exception. So once the pop-up is displayed, if you click over it, the pop-up displays. I want the text, so to switch to the pop-up, so we have here driver dot, there is a method switch to. You can switch to an alert, switch to the alert. After switching to the alert, you need, these are the methods belonging to the alert class: accept, dismiss, get text. Now as it is going to provide a text, I can pass it to a variable or string and display the text. Okay, so this would, if you run the code now, take your time. Let me run it once again. So after launching the application, alert, and text has to be picked from this alert. And you see, this is the text. Please select the start date. Now I need to click on the button as well. Once it gets the text, it has to click on the button so that it comes back to the application. So, but button don't have any attributes. If you right click also, you will not find any attributes for the button. So what I have to do, I would say driver dot switch to the alert and click on accept. That's nothing but OK button. As here you have only one option, you can use either accept or dismiss, either, it's okay. But you can also do some validation. If the text displayed over the alert is please select start date, then only click on accept, because it can be any text, right? It can be any text. If the text displayed over the alert is please select start date, then only click on the accept. So I can write if condition, if the text which you have picked from the application is in this variable, if the data present in this variable, if it is equal to, these are the string methods where I can compare the content equals, when the content is equal to and what I am expecting with my expected text, double quotes. If it is equal to this content, then click on the accept button and say sysout correct correct alert appeared, just for our understanding. Also you can write an else invalid alert, and at last you want to close the browser driver dot. Okay, now once you run this, so based on the text of validation which we have done, it will go to the if condition, click on OK, display the text and close the browser. So displayed, button is clicked, closed. So you see here sysout correct alert is displayed, means it is executing the if block, not the else. So this is how you can automate the web alerts or pop-ups. What is XPath access? It's nothing but one approach. So it is an approach to find an XPath for some complex and dynamic web elements. You can find an XPath based on the preceding web elements, ancestors, parent, the child, the following, right, the siblings. These are the different XPath options or types available. So we'll discuss each one, like what is meant by preceding. Okay, so preceding is nothing but this is one approach where you can find all the web elements before the current web element or before the current node. So before preceding all the before web elements before the current web element that you can find using preceding. So the syntax would be whatever your XPath of your current element, and you need to specify preceding and the colons and asterisk. Asterisk will give you all the preceding web elements before that. Okay. Similarly, ancestor. Ancestor is something where you can find all the parents and grandparents of the current tag, all the ancestors. Okay. And this is the following syntax to it. Then you can see the just adjacent parent to the current node. You can get it with the parent ancestor. You can say the XPath access. Preceding siblings means just the siblings of the current node, not all the ancestors. Within the parent node, all the siblings before your current sibling you can find with this sibling. You can say the preceding siblings. The child, this is used to find all the child nodes of the parent identified node. Here you have a descendant. So all this will use it or will find it when practically demonstrated. Followings are something if you want to check or find all the you can say the current, whatever the current node you have found, you want to see all the following web elements to it. After the ending of the current web element, you want to see all the following web elements, nodes. You can use this following. In that following siblings you have, it returns all the siblings after the tag of the current node. Once you close the tag, whatever the siblings are there, following siblings, it will identify. So in this manner, we will be understanding these, how to find these XPaths. So you can go to any application. Now I want to find, so let's inspect this web element. Now this is the locators of the current web element. Let's go to the crow path. and this is the relative XPath and the absolute XPath. Now we need to just get the ancestors of this found web element text box. So this is your normal XPath. So in case if this XPath is not helping us to find this web element, I want to find this web element based on its ancestors. So I can use the syntax / tag name, the attribute name and its value, and then use the ancestor colon, and if you want to find all the ancestors, give an asterisk. /ANCESTER that's right. TOR ancestor. Yeah, so if any syntax error, it will be turned to red, that indicates an syntax error. Now I'm just clicking here, you find here 14 matching nodes, means there are 14 ancestors to this text box, who are the parents, grandparents and so on. So you can find them all below here. What are those 14 grandparents or the ancestors? And also on the application you find them all selected. This Facebook text is there, email, password, this complete, okay, everything, these all are the ancestors. Okay, so this is one way of finding the ancestor. Now you want to find a child to this text box. So I can use the syntax here, instead of ancestor, child. Find the child to this text box. There are no childs to this web element, this text box. Okay, in that case we can find, inspect this, and here we'll try to find the child. There are 32 childs, means 32 sub elements are there in this drop down. What are those 32 childs which are displayed over here? All the options from the days, 1 to 31 days and 1 day option. So total 32 childs. So this is an XPath based on the child details, you are finding the current node, right? Now you have a descendant as well, which returns the child, grandchild of a current node, means internal sub elements as well. So there you can use the descendant, DSDANT, all the childs and grandchilds. So still there are no sub elements, grandchilds to this current node, so there are still 32. Okay, so in this manner you can create your, using the XPath access concept, the XPath for inspecting the web element. As we know, following is there, following, so it will give you, it's giving you 304, means which are those sub elements or web elements after this drop down. So you can find from the application, there are all this, everything whatever you see, all are the followers of it. There are 304 web elements. Okay, you want to find the current parent of the current node. It's itself, this is the parent, the complete, the day, month and a year, that is a parent for this inspected day web element. Okay, and you have a preceding as well. So preceding will give you all the elements before that, grandparents, parents, each and everything of that particular web element.
So guys, I hope you found this video informative. For more such informative videos, stay tuned to Intellipaat's YouTube channel.